Hi, everyone, and welcome to Compassionate Conversations, a video series created by Home Care and Hospice and Total Senior Care to educate and support our community through short, meaningful discussions. In each episode, we sit down with members of our team and other trusted voices to share knowledge, experiences, and insights, all in a relaxed and approachable way. Today on Compassionate Conversations, we're honored to sit down with Larry Selph, who opened his heart to share the story of his father's final chapter, a story filled with love, strength, and the tough lessons families often face when navigating serious illnesses. Larry's reflections remind us how important it is to recognize when help is needed and how support from hospice can bring comfort, not just to the person who is ill, but to the entire family.
It was hard for us to know when it was the right time to reach out to hospice with Dad, mainly because, like everybody else, when you're going through that time, you're dealing with day to day. You're dealing with problem to problem. You're trying to make things comfortable. You're trying to make people happy. And the concept of you don't know what you don't know is really landed hard after the fact. We realized later that we could have reached out to hospice, honestly, a couple of years in advance. Everybody's illnesses and passage that they're going through is unique, and part of the process is opening a case so that they can evaluate your specific needs for you and your family, and that was the part that we should have done way in advance. We waited until we were kind of over our heads, which we were able to get through very thankfully. But at that point, it was hard to expect an organization to go through any onboarding, do any initial assessments when we were down to our last day or two. So it definitely should have been way earlier. And I think that's part of the reason I wanted to do some of these conversations was if you're wondering if it's time, it's probably was already time. So that was a big realization to us. There was a lot of help to be done, and we definitely should have started earlier. So the big piece of information of when to start is almost more dependent on not knowing what services are available. We didn't reach out early because we didn't even realize that there were some things that could be done early. Not just getting the onboarding and some of the information out of the way ahead of time, but there were things that could have been helpful way in advance of that last few days, that last week. And you just never know when it's time. So if you're thinking about it, it's time. So, a lot of love and respect for my dad. He was very much we'll figure it out, we'll do what we have to do in any situation. That structured the way I lived, the way I grew up, and the way I handle adversity in life. This situation was no different. We did everything we could do to make Dad comfortable. We did everything we could do to make sure we were making the right decisions. But we were raised to be capable and to figure it out. And we were able to figure it out, and things went very well. Right up until maybe the last day or so. It was pretty overwhelming. We were still able to care for Dad, but it was very overwhelming. So the benefit to having grown up with nothing's ever really a problem, you just have to figure it out and work your way through, was also our greatest downfall when it came to knowing when to ask for help. Because we were capable and we were able to get Dad through the way he wanted to, in the way he wanted to, and we were forever be thankful for that. But it could have been much easier with a lot more help. So it's interesting to look back and think about what kind of things were available. When I learned more about hospice, that things are on a case-by-case basis, and that the services and the things that are available are really dependent to what you and your family are going through. We built a house in the 80s that didn't have any downstairs bedrooms, downstairs showers, downstairs had a facility, but that was about it. So One of the things that might have been very helpful was a hospital bed, which apparently would have been no big deal to get one of those in place. There are a lot of other services that I learned about, and I'm sure many, many, many more that I did not learn about because we didn't really get to go all the way through the onboarding process. We didn't really get to go through the initial assessments and all the things for hospice to let us know what's out there and what's available. And I think that was one of the other reasons that I was very excited to be able to do some of these videos, interviews, answer some of these questions, because you don't know what they can do for you until you contact them. And it is very important to do that because individually it's a case-by-case thing, and that's where they excel. So when it comes to the services available and what hospice can do for each individual case, it's hard not knowing what's available, and that's the purpose of the onboarding and the initial assessments and stuff that they do. But one of the things that I found really exciting that we were not able to take advantage of was, I believe there are counseling services for the family members. Your primary physician's job is to heal you when you're not doing well. When you break a bone, they give you a cast so it can heal. When you have an illness, they give you an antibiotic so you can heal. But when it comes to this stage of the process, that's no longer in their wheelhouse. They have a tendency to prescribe medication for pain to make sure that you're comfortable. But when it comes to everything else involved in this last transition, that's where hospice specializes in services, devices, support to make this easier, not only for the person who's passing, but their family members who are grieving and going through long nights and doing all the things that you do to support your family. And again, I don't even know how many services I don't know about because we didn't get to go all the way through that process.